In this topic, let's talk about specifically rolling back code changes. Now, we discussed earlier in the course that some of our database code is code like application code. Our views, our stored procedures, our functions, more are just code. They don't maintain any state, and we can replace our deployed versions with previous versions or the previous version with a new version and just go back and forth as needed. Now, ideally, we would like to roll forward. It means that we would like to have the DBA's developers, somebody available that understands the code, and they can decide if there's a fix they can quickly deploy. Perhaps we've forgotten a parameter or we've misnamed it. Very quickly, we could correct a spelling issue and redeploy something. Now, certainly, if you can deploy a fix in your normal pipeline, go back to development and run it through QA and run it through CI and everything else, we'd like to do that. But if possible, we want to get the system working as quickly as we can, so we may make that fix in production. And if we do that, then we have drift, but we have to make sure we just feed that back to development immediately, right? If either in state-based or migration-based, doesn't matter, we have to feed it back to development. Of course, just like with application code, if I'm going to change versions of code, I have to be sure that the various pieces and functions and objects actually work correctly. The logical flow of the application has to work. But there really isn't any technical hurdle to grabbing the previous version from a version control system. The bigger hurdle is understanding the logical implications of changing this code, right? If I've changed the way a query works, is that still what my application needs? If I've updated my views or stored procedures and I want to roll back a change, I have to make sure that it still is going to compile and it's still going to fit within my application, however it works. Now, untangling the logical flow of a large number of objects can be cumbersome and difficult. And for this reason, the rollback typically involves undoing all the set of changes of the deployment because it's too difficult to figure out what's going on. Now, in a DevOps world, hopefully there's very few changes, but there still may be multiple changes. One way you can make this quicker is separate your code deployments away from your table and data changes. That simplifies things. In this way, you can often just use comparison technology to generate a rollback script looking at the before deployment and then quickly run it and if there are problems. Most of our comparison tools will allow me to reverse the direction of comparison. So if I look at development and production and I generate a script to roll forward, often I can quickly switch those and look at production and development and generate the script that will make me go backwards. There are not many tools that automatically build rollback scripts, but you can usually do this on your own and include it with the deployment or just make sure it's in a known location so that your operations and DBA staff can quickly find that code. The other thing you do, as I've mentioned in the previous module, is whenever you complete that deployment, make sure you've got a snapshot of the old code. That can be quicker because we know that this is what production looked like at the last deployment, so I can quickly generate that comparison. Sometimes that's easier than going back to my version control system and trying to sort out exactly which version of code was included in this deployment. However you decide to do it, make sure you're prepared to roll back code for any deployment.